All right, welcome back. Welcome back, my friends. We are Game 2004. That's Game Engines 2 in the terrible winter of 2026. And it is week 3, part 1 of our broadcast and recording together. Some service announcements. Let's talk about this. I just want to remind you guys of Global Game Jam. This next week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We are, I don't know if you saw the note that Wallace put out there, but we are hosting a mocap workshop on Saturday. So if you're interested in mocap and want to learn how to use that studio, then join Global Game Jam. I think it's worthwhile to do it, and you get to build a game too, right? Why not? So that's what's happening next week. This week, I know that there's some weather that's supposed to come up today and tomorrow and whatever, but I'm going to try my best to be here, unless, I don't know, we get slammed, something like that. And I'll let you guys know by tomorrow morning very early, 6 a.m. or something. But for the most part, my plan is to be here tomorrow, where I'll be working later on at the mocap studio, right, to try and get it ready for next week, right? So that's what's happening. So we'll be here and we'll do the stuff that we're doing. Also, on Friday, I do have a conflict, and that will 100% be online. So Friday, plan to be remote, guys, right? Because I have a conflict. I got to be with got a couple of appointments I got to do, and there's no way I can be 2 places at once. I wish I could. I wish I had like the teleportation, like booth, a matter transmission, device that can literally convert me into energy and back, and I can do all that kind of stuff. I just can't. This is not possible. Actually, even better would be a gateway, because then I wouldn't die and be reborn somehow, because you never know how this matter transmission stuff works, right? Even at the quantum level. But anyway, let's go back to reality and talk about what we're going to be doing today. Anyone have any issues with any of those things? Please, if you haven't had a chance to join Global Game Jam, we don't have a large turnout so far. I think it's really important for everybody here, especially since you're in some of you are in your final year here, or going to go into 3rd year. I think it's very important that you all come out to Global Game Jam. It's a chance to make another game over the weekend. Maybe meet some people from 1st year as well, and do other things like that, and as well do that workshop on Saturday. I think it's super important, and I'm plugging it because although it costs you $20, it does include food for Friday and stuff like that, and then of course the opportunity for us to work together. I will be here Friday and Saturday for sure, and I think my friend Wallace will be here on the entire time, so we have a chance to be together. I know also next week we have assignments that are due, right? Because we have assignment like 1 is due for like all my courses, right? I think Steve has assignments for you too, no? Right? Coming kind of up. So.
His first assignment, other than what we already did, his first assignment is until March.
His?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, we just got
well,
finished one already, which is like a report, and the next one is
well, mine there's 3, each worth 15% of your grade. It's like a slap. Right, it's coming. Right, so please make sure you, if you haven't started your game level design for Game 2004, this course, you're behind. There's lots of stuff to do, and I'm not sure if you guys have tried it out and all that kind of stuff. There's a ton of little details. We'll talk about those things today and expectations. I'll go over that again. But there's lots of stuff to do. If you haven't had a chance to start that stuff, you get going. This is the time. All right. And also, multiplayer, there's some stuff you can do without knowing everything. You don't have to wait for me, right? We're going to talk about new good stuff this week, tomorrow. That'll give you most of what you need tomorrow for what you need for next week. Most of it you'll be getting tomorrow, right? And the same thing with AI. Most of what you'll get, what you need is next week, for this week for next week. This is kind of a pivotal week. Please don't miss classes. I will record everything, of course, but we'll go from there. We'll talk about those things. So service announcements done. Questions around anything we've talked about so far? All right, let's move into the meat and bones of what we're doing today, which is more exterior level design. So before we get into that, I do have some resources that I've posted on Blackboard that I want you guys to download. Okay, so some resources are Fab resources, and those are materials that I've given you from Fab, so you don't have to pay, right? Black alder trees foliage system that you can download. Warning, black alder and European beech, these two are at least 6 gigabytes a piece, right? Is that available? What does it say? You should be able to download it. Yeah. It's at least 6 gigabytes each, right? If not more. So I'm just letting you know those are big downloads and they take time, and they also will make your project be bloated, and there's really nothing you can do about it, all right? So one of the things that we have when we make these projects, and I keep talking about DevOps, and people are like, why can't I use GitHub? Well, this is why, all right? Because I'm giving you now 12 gigabytes of like assets. And you're like, do I really need all those 12 gigabytes? You'll see. You need them, right? And whenever you make fully a system and external level design, you need this kind of stuff. Now, what we may do for the for interior level design, we may create another project that does not include those resources to lighten our load, right? But for now, for this project, for this week, I recommend you download them. You could also download it yourself if you have access to Fab, right? But if most of you, from what I understand, you don't have access to Fab, like free resources for Megascans, I've provided them for you. But it does take long, so please download them as we wait, okay? Next, what I want to try and do, I'll also do the same thing here. So I'm going to download these things right from my OneDrive. That's where I put them. I'm going to download them as well. Sure. One thing that you're going to notice when we start working today, I'm going to start talking about landscape materials, right? And I know that Steve has done some stuff with you guys on landscape materials. He may have done stuff. But this is a whole other level of landscape materials, okay? So we're going to talk about it. And I will talk about some shortcuts. I know material design in general is not people's favorite thing to do in Unreal Engine because it's a little bit mathy, right? There's math involved. There's some, some of it is unknown. It's like ugly. It doesn't look like exactly like a blueprint, and people are upset about it, right? But just do your best. It's not for everybody. I have to be honest. Like, it's a skill to do material design, material level design, and all that stuff is a whole other level of stuff that you need to do, and it takes time. It's so it is very time consuming, to get moving on. And there's lots of detail work. And we're going to talk about some of those things, and I'll talk about expectations from you for assignment 1, okay? Because I'm not going to demand a lot of detail all over your level. So, one thing I want to talk about for assignment 1 is, before we move on, is please make your level, consumable by me, all right? It's a slice of life, okay? It's a vertical slice. A beautiful corner, as I like to say, of your level, all right? I don't need your level to be 5 kilometers, all right? Please don't do that, all right? Or insane verticality, all right? We don't need that kind of stuff. I think it's just going to make it so it's going to be way more difficult for you to show it off. Think about your time, as an example. If you were showing this off to the judges at Level Up, you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes max to show your stuff off. Can you walk for 5 minutes? Is that what you want to do? Or do you want to show off your level in other ways, right? Some people have asked, I had one of you guys asked about if you wanted to kind of make a little cutscene, a little video to show off your level instead of like actually going through it. I think it's too much. Don't do that right now. I think it's extra work you don't need to do. Later on, we will talk about making a demo reel and all those kind of things. But for today, the answer is no. Okay, so stick to the requirements of what I've asked you to do for your in your rubric, and you should be just fine. So to begin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into last week's project, and I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to take week 2, and again, if somehow you weren't able to do week 2 for some reason, you missed the class or whatever, you can certainly use my week 2 as a jump-off point. Again, it's just a demo, so there isn't anything that I'm going to test you on specifically on these things I'm showing you. For the test, the midterm test, I'll ask you to do something. Probably some kind of exterior level design live, right? And maybe some interior level design live, which means you're going to take that whole 3 hours, my friends, because you're just going to be designing and putting things together and making the materials work, and you'll have access to everything, but you're going to be on a time limit. And that time limit, constraints, and everything else, especially if I've given you something to build, is going to be the challenge. So, which means you need to practice, right? Any of this art stuff even if it's technical art, requires a great deal of practice and time and patience and trial and error and lots of error and lots of iteration until, and this is the key point, until it's good enough. And what I mean by that is it's never good enough until it is. You have to keep iterating. And that's how it goes, right? You have to be satisfied with what you're producing because you're going to be delivering this thing. This is for you, right? So, all right, so we're just going to make a copy here. I've just done that. And I'm going to go into my week 3 copy. Now, one thing that I didn't do, I'm just going to kill my Git repository here, is please be aware I've given you the blend file, and I failed to do something last week. The Git attributes file here does not include the .blend, and the .blend file is 54 megabytes, so it's pretty large. I recommend we use large file support, right, to do that. So Git LFS is what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to go into my Git attributes file here. I'm going to open it up with even Notepad or anything, doesn't matter what. And all I want to do here is I want to add, now you can do it here directly if I type in star.blend, because that's what I want to do. Or here's the other way to do it. We can do it through command line. Okay, so why don't we do it through command line instead? So I'm going to go to show more options, open in terminal, and I'm going to start, I'm going to go to command line. I'm going to say git lfs track star.blend, and hopefully that'll do everything I want. It's not a Git repository. Let's do a Git repository first, git init. And then after I do that, I'll do git lfs track star.blend. And what it'll do is that'll modify my Git attributes file for me with all the particulars. We need to track blend files. So if you have Blender files or large PNGs, as an example, and you want to track those, then you put them here in your Git attributes file. Otherwise, sometimes large JPEGs, like textures, and large PNGs will go over the limit, and it'll slow you right down when it comes to you pushing things to DevOps. So another thing we might want to do is git lfs track star.png. Oh. And the same thing with star.jpg. So JPEG, there's different ways it's spelt, right? You can put those things, anything like movies, like MKVs, those kind of things. You want to track those with your Git attribute files. Otherwise, bad things happen. All right. I'm just going to put this up on DevOps here, just so we can move on. It takes time. It takes time for those things. Oh, by the way, the fab, here's something to know. The fab Black Alder and European Beach has to be inside of the content folder, directly in the content folder, no subfolders of your project. If it doesn't, if it's not there, you will get some weird errors. Like it won't load properly. You won't get the textures loading, and bunch of stuff will break. Oh, we need someone to push it. How about that, Tom? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really hoping to see you all at Global Game Jam next week. That'd be very nice. We will play some crazy tunes. We will do all kinds of crazy stuff like last time. And hopefully you'll have a chance to be creative with whatever the theme is. We don't know what the theme is right now. But that kind of stuff. Also, one thing to also mention is that Ubisoft Challenge, I think, was come and gone, if I'm not wrong. So that's all done. So if you were going to do that, that was something you should have done already. I'm pretty sure. Is it next week? No, I think it was past. I think it was last weekend. Oh wait. All right. There we go. It's going to push it, this crazy project, and you're going to see how it's going to balloon when I add in black alder and European beech. So what I want to start with today is landscape materials. Landscape materials seem to be a bit of a challenge for people to understand. I know when I first was learning about them way back, by the way, they've changed a lot since UE3. There was big changes since then, UE4 to now. Lots and lots of changes. But when I was learning about landscape materials, and like I said, they've gone through a bit of a change, there are some things that I always had trouble with, and I want to talk about those things. For example, you might expect certain things to pop out in a way that you know, you might read a book or go online and look at a YouTube video or whatever, and you're like, how come that guy's, you know, landscape material is just working fine? I have the exact same map, you know, blueprints inside my material, but mine doesn't work. Well, my friends, it comes down to this. You are using version 5.54. And some of those versions, 5.54, the landscape materials will give you some, they'll complain a little bit, all right, about how this all works. So I've just, here on my last week's project, as you can see, I had a couple of these, you know, rocks that I used from Fab, which is the Megascan stuff. Again, I've downloaded them directly in here, right? That's where I have my, my models and stuff like that. That's inside of my Fab folder. Here it is. So that's where they belong for you. You got to put them inside of Megascans. And you can see that there are surfaces here, right? There are some surfaces here for that we've kind of loaded up here. So if you already have some of these, or if you already have 3D assets like this, then you need to pick and choose what you put inside of Fab. Like if I give you my Fab folder, it will potentially clash with yours. So please make sure that you may have to pick, and I'll show you how to do this while I do it for myself, right? Because I already got those things starting to download. So let me just go back here and see how far we are. Oh yeah, we're still going. I'm sure you guys are still going too. I got one download in progress. European beech is done, right? Fab is done. And so I'll load the Fab stuff up first and I'll show you what to do. All right, let's do that first. So I'm going to close this project off. I'm going to say File, Save All. Make sure that it's working. I did. And now inside of here, I'm going to go into Content, and inside of Fab, you're going to see that there's a Megascans folder, and there's two subfolders, 3D and Surfaces. All right, that's what you have. Now I'm going to pull up another folder, another File Explorer window, and I'm going to go into Downloads, and let's see that where does this stuff go? Where does it go in? Don't tell me it went some other cockamamie place. It may have. Maybe it's GAME2004. Yeah, here it is. So here's Fab. So I'm just going to extract it. Now again, unfortunately I do not have 7-zip, so I'm going to extract all. It's going to go inside of my Fab folder, right? And there it is. And when I do this, here we go. In my Fab folder, now I have Megascans, and I have surfaces and plants and 3D. I'm going to pull plants in because I don't have plants in my project right now. So that's one thing I added. I added some plants for you guys. So Control C, Control V. There's the plants. Now inside of surfaces, I got to check to see if mine doesn't clash with those. So inside surfaces, I've got all these, woohoo, right? Tons of surfaces. And there's some stuff that's the same here, like raw marble stone. You know, I could replace these. I could replace these surfaces, but bad things would happen if I did that, because they would be like, it's not going to work anymore, like rock rough and all that stuff. One thing I did do is I replaced the names. I changed all the names here. So we may have some issues here. We may have to repoint them, but maybe what we do for this one is just delete things we already have if you have stuff already like I do. And I'm just going to pull in all the new stuff, right? So that way it's like, I'm not going to have to do this, you know, picking and choosing stuff. I'm just going to pull it across. Oops, let's try this again. But I will have to, there's going to be some stuff that I pull in, and it's going to be like broken. because I've renamed some stuff. So I know that that's going to happen. OS Mega Scan Surfaces. 3D. I have only these three things. And let's see if I have any more. I do. Tons more, right? So I'm going to copy the pieces that I don't have. These things didn't change. I didn't change them. I'm going to pull all these pieces in. So that way you have what I have. There we go. Oh, skip. Which one was the same? Nordic Forest, Cluster. That was different. Nordic Rocks. Yeah. There we go. I think I got everything. Again, all I did was I just got all these. I'm not sure if you guys had any of these. If you don't have them, just copy right across, right? There you go. Yeah. All right. So I've got those, and that's Fab. So Fab is done, and that's the first thing. Now for the other one, which is I think I've got European Beach here. The other one's still going. I'm just going to unzip this one. So let's just do that one first. So let's extract all. And this is going to take some time because it's a big file. It's like a lot of gigabytes, right? This goes directly in the content folder. There's nothing for you to mess with because you guys didn't have any trees last week, so now we're going to have them. There is no better way to do this, guys, unless you have direct access to Fab yourself, right? Which you don't. So for most of you, so.
The secrets to the universe are implanted on these files.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, big secrets. Secrets to the universe, indeed. So this is kind of our project setup. All right, so European Beach. There is a European Beach folder. The inside of one, this one is what I want. I don't want just these. I want the whole European Beach folder, this one right here. So copy it, and then it's got to go inside of the content folder proper itself, like this. This is where it belongs. Okay? And same thing goes with the Black Alder one. Where did I put it? Downloads, Georgian. Here it is, Black Alder. They're massive, massive files, beyond the ken of mortal men, as they say, right? All right. So I'm giving you these because if you need to use them for your project, let's say, for example, you want to use some trees and stuff like that, you can certainly use these trees I'm giving you as assets. If you don't like them, find some other ones, right? If you also, some people ask me if they wanted to use stylized access, like low poly assets. I mean, that's okay if you made a low poly landscape. We're not making a low poly landscape. We're making a kind of a more realistic landscape, so it doesn't really go with that kind of stuff, so I don't recommend it. All right, so now the test. Let's load everything up afterwards and see if it all works or it breaks. So what Unreal Engine is going to do is it's going to try and import all those things that you have in your projects. Here's the trick when it comes to this stuff that I'm showing you here. You have to have the same exact Unreal Engine version, 5.54, when you're doing it. All right. If you're trying to do this with 5.6, it'll break, right? So that's an important distinction. So let me just check European Beach and see what we got. There's two things with European Beach. There's foliage, and inside there's Simple Wind and Pivot Painter. We want Pivot Painter when we're going to use it, okay? We don't want Simple Wind. Simple Wind will actually add wind effects into your foliage, and sometimes it takes a lot of computational power from your machine. So even the machines in front of us, good as they are, may not be able to do everything if you have hundreds of these assets in your level, right? And we'll talk about how to put them in. Strategy on how to do that today. So that looks like they're good. And let me take a look at Black Alder and see if it looks like they're probably going to be good too. Let's take a look at those. Yeah, so lots of different kinds of trees I've given you. As well, you get some, if you look at Fab has some megascans, there's plants. And I've given you grass in here as well. So you have clumps of grass that we can use as well. So if you want to draw grass in your landscape, which there probably should be some grass in places, and that kind of stuff, I provided for you. Okay? I've also provided you with all the textures you need, right? So today when we start talking about our landscape materials, then if we look at surfaces, there are quite a few textures. Like for example, this texture right here, which is dirt ground, I've provided it for you so that and I've also renamed everything so they're in the right format. So if you notice it says T, which is for texture, dirt ground, _D, which is diffuse. Sometimes you'll also see it as B, which is base color. Those things, that's what they mean. N clearly means normal map, and ORM means, what does it mean? This could be a test question. What does ORM mean? Come on. Anybody? You guys are sleeping during that time, weren't you? No. Yes, you were. All right. So it's occlusion, right? Roughness and metalness. It's all in one file, one texture that has all those three things. We use each of the channels RGB for each of those textures because what they've done is they've separated them to grayscale textures into those three channels. And that's why it appears to be yellow, like this, okay? So that's what it does. You don't pull in the entire, from the execution pin from the one big texture, you pull in each channel specifically for roughness or for occlusion or metalness. Sometimes it's also called ARM because it's ambient occlusion. So it's either ambient occlusion or occlusion, and that's why in this case it's called ORM, O-R-M. It's a combined texture that gives you all those three things, and that's where you get them from. All right, so we made a level last week, my friends, which was something like they use this, and that's okay. But I want to practice, and I'm going to go to our funky site that we've gone to before. And if you remember, there is a free place to get some of your assets, right, for your height maps. Let's see if that went. It did. It did. It did. So I want to go there, and I want to grab some stuff. So Polyhaven was one place we talked about. Remember, we said Polyhaven was a place you can get textures for free. Again, I highly recommend using something like this instead of you creating something on your own. Another thing to do with textures is, if you have access to it, and you may not, is Substance. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of Substance. Hopefully you have. So there's two. The one I'm talking about is Substance Designer. Substance Designer. And I want to talk about this really briefly because it has become a great workflow for people who are making procedurally generated textures, as an example, right through visual scripting. So it uses visual scripting similar to what we do with Unreal Engine, and Adobe is the people who own it now. It used to be an independent company, Substance, and there's a bunch of products. One of them is Substance Painter, which allows you to do 3D painting for your textures. And the other one here is Substance Designer, and this allows you to make procedurally generated textures that look like brick, that look like cracked things or marble or whatever, without actually using any textures of your own. It's all mathematical, and it's all stuff that you do with visual scripting. And you can bring this into Unreal Engine with a plugin. So you can actually make the procedurally generated texture and bring it in. So pretty cool stuff. Substance Designer. If you're interested in being an artist or a technical artist one day, this is something you may want to learn. And it's ungodly expensive. It's very expensive, just like every other Adobe product. All right, so that's good, but really worthwhile if you know how to use it. So that's this. We also talked about last week. Let's see if I have the link here. Here it is. We also talked about height maps, and what we said was you can do some height maps here. Grab one of these height maps. Be aware that when you grab a height map, it may not be what you want. Look at the resolution here, guys. 16,000 by 16,000 resolution. That's a massive map. It's a crazy big map. This is like way bigger than you need, all right, as an example. Sometimes also when you bring it in, the edges are weird. I don't know if you've noticed that too. You get some weird edges happening, like flat edges and stuff like that. You need to fix those up when you get them in. So take a look at some of these smaller ones, like 4096 by 496 is still big, right? And as you can see, as you go down, there's smaller ones, like these 2048 by 2048 maps, you know, as an example, or even something that looks like this, which is a 1025 by 1025 map. You know, you want something small. You don't want a big one like this Rolling Hills one, okay? Like this might be not a bad one to start with, or something like that. Once you get really big, like 13,000, now you're talking. Now it's going to take a lot of computational power. And remember, you cannot possibly show me something that's that big reasonably. So I'm going to get a 2K map, which is one of these, right? I'm thinking rocky land and rivers height map. This is not a bad one. The edges seem to be creased a little bit weird, but this is the one I'm going to start with now. All right, so I'm going to grab this one. So again, I'm going to motionforgepictures.com/height-maps. I gave you that link before, and I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to make a new level, right, to practice. Practice. We're going to practice, my friends, which is what we want to do. Rocky land and rivers. So we all look the same. All right, and then once I've got that height map, I'm going to unzip it. So I'm going to go to extract all here, and it's going to give me some assets, but I need to look and see what they give you. Now look what they give you. They give you a height map that's a PNG, 5 megs, right? And there's a height map that's an EXR, 16 megs, right? And they've given you some materials as well in EXR format, and they talk about other things, how to use height maps and stuff like this. So I want this one, height map PNG, this one. This one I'm going to use, right? Because it's only 5 megs, and that's what I'm going to use in Unreal Engine. So let's make a new level in Unreal Engine. That's how we're going to start. I'm going to go File, New Level, and I'm going to use there's a couple of options. One of them is I could use empty level, or I could use open world. If you use open world, my friends, if you do that, don't do it. It'll partition your map, and we haven't talked about map partitioning yet. We will talk about that later on this semester. So you may not see everything if you did this one. This one you can use this one or this one. If we use basic, let's try basic this time around. If I use basic and click create, I'm going to get a floor, right? And what I want to do is just click on the floor and delete it, right? And it's like similar to doing the other one without having to add in all those lights, right? So now I've got everything that I had from before. Yay! All right, next I want to add in my landscape material. First of all, actually, let me save my level. So File, and I'll save level as. And notice I have level 1, 2. Let's make level 3. There we go. Level 3, it's saved. And now I'm going to make a brand new landscape. Let's do it together. So I'm going to go from here, I'm going to go to landscape. And then I'm going to go to import from file. And from here, I'm going to click this little ellipses, and we're going to see that file in my downloads. Downloads. And I'm going to find that rocky land and rivers. And inside there, this height map PNG is what I want. And press open. And when you do, you're going to get something that looks like this. It looks like it's not big, my friends. That's what it looks like, okay? But let's take a look. Let's inspect some of these things for a second, okay? 127 by 127 quads is what we said. A 1 by 1 section, 17 by 17 components, that's what it is, and 2160 by 2160 resolution. That's what we're getting here. If I click import, if I do that, then I'm going to get a height map that looks like this. And you might think, hey, that's not so big. It's massive. Okay? So what about if you get a height map like this? Should you cut it somehow? Should you do something about it? You know, guys, just show me a small corner of it. Develop that, okay? You don't have to go into detail and make rivers and seas and everything else everywhere in the height map. There's just no time for that. You have a little assignment that you and your partner are doing. A beautiful corner is what I'm looking for, all right? With a couple of your things. If you need to make it like 250 meters by 250 meters and leave the rest alone, that's okay. Or surround it with cliffs So you can use some of those cliffs I just gave you, surround everything with cliffs so you can't get there, but it's like looks really cool from a distance. We're good, okay? Don't make it so it's crazy massive. That's too big, okay? All right, next. So let's inspect this thing, and I'm gonna move towards my camera. I'm gonna move to like 16 speed so we can move really quickly. And I wanna kind of inspect it from really high up here to see what this thing looks like. Take a look at these edges, man. These are crazy ugly edges we get here. Do you guys get this? Look at this. That's not right. Right? It's a crazy ugly edge. Did you get that? Yeah. So, I mean, we could model this edge and make it big, like mountains. We could do that. Or we could ignore it and we're going to use something over here, right? I don't need to modify something all the time, right? I can use what I got. There's enough geometry here, like that's somewhere in the middle, like right here, where I'm getting pretty good, I'm getting pretty good geometry right here. Let's drop in a player start somewhere, okay? That's what I want to do. So one thing is, I want to go back to selection mode, and if we look at the landscape material, look at the location, my friends. Minus 10,000, it's crazy, right? This shouldn't be here. It's like a crazy, like negative location. Let's reset this, please, to 0, 0. All right, so now we're back in the middle. All right, and what we want is somewhere over here, because by the way, bigger doesn't mean like one of those things we just saw, like maybe over here, you can see that there's a defect over here on this side, right? So, but the problem that I would have is the big numbers actually do make a difference, believe it or not, in your, when you're doing your level, right? I mean, it's got to keep track of that number, right? So why? So I want to put my, my player start somewhere like here. Like, you know, it's far enough away, and we'll see how big this is. There's a big mountain over here. Let's do that for now. So I'm just going to go here and go to Basic and go to Player Start and drag it in. And then we have a player start. It should not be in the level, so please do not try and poke it like this. If you see it like black like this, that means it's going to go underneath the level. You want it to be on top of the level, like up here. All right? And that's an important thing. If you make your height map too low, here's what can happen, like really low in the level, right? What can happen is you'll get weird fog effects because the volumetric fog that's part of this level will fog out anything that's really low. Like it'll create a weird horizon and stuff. Better to make it high up, is what I'm saying, okay, as opposed to low in your map. So this is the first thing. Let's try this out and see how it works. This is play the player, and then we see what this guy is. Hey, look at that. And you can see it's like a massive map. It's like way sprawling, crazy, massive open world, okay? And you know what? There's a little cliff up here that I like. I think I like to kind of put this guy maybe up here on the cliff, right? Because he can oversee this crazy world, like maybe up here somewhere, right? That's where I want to start him. He's having trouble, right? Trying to get up there. I don't think he can make it because of his jumping capability. Ah, there he is. But up here somewhere is probably good, right? So again, I don't know. And maybe you want to build up another place, another little hill that he can look for. But I want, or this character, what I want it to do is kind of look out over my land that I'm going to build, and we're going to see, like, you know, what it's going to look like. So this is where I want it. I'm going to escape from here, and what I want to do is I want to move that that over there. Now, one way to do that, one way I could have done that is just to duplicate my X and Y coordinates, but I failed to do that. So I'm just going to try and maneuver that player start so it's on top of the hill, like over here. There we go. And let me just reduce my camera speed because crazy. I'm going to go back to 1. All right, a little bit more doable. He's not going to roll down the hill, or she's not going to roll down the hill, I should say. And let's just press play, and we should be rolling off the hill. That's not what I wanted, okay? It's not what I wanted. Oh, I also have player start and player start too. Let's just use player start. I guess I duplicated it instead of moving it, and that's fine. There we are. I'm just going to move them a little bit this way. All right, and you know what? I want to look in the right direction. I want to look over there. So let's rotate this guy, this player start, so that it's looking in the right direction, right? Right now you can see the blue arrow is pointing this way. That's where I align with the x-axis of the character. Again, if you press the E key on your keyboard, it will allow you to change the rotation so we can look where we want. And if I press play now, I got what I want. I'm looking in this way. Yay, setup done. File, save all. And what I want to do here is I want to push this to DevOps. This is a great place to push to DevOps. And it's going to be a big push, guys, right? Because we've added in a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to say git add dot. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's huge. You can see it. And we're all going to push at the same time. And you know what's going to happen? Like DevOps is going to crash. It's going to go like, what the hell are these guys doing from Georgian College? Just like next week when we get together for Global Game Jam, we're going to be like, what the hell are those guys doing?
We're going to cause the power outage.
Something's going to happen, right?
We're going to cause the Y2K all over.
Don't say it, man. Don't say that. I was part of Y2K, okay? I lived through that. Okay, it was traumatizing. You're triggering me, man. All right? Y2K, they hired all kinds of programmers. I was one of those programmers they hired during Y2K. They were like, the world is going to end. It's 1999, okay? I want you to teleport back to that time with me just for a second, just because you said it, Alex, right? Back in 1999, I was a programmer working for Bell Canada. That's right. And they said, we hired you because we want you to take care of this Y2K problem. The world's going to end. And then when we looked at the data, we were like, nothing's going to end. Everything's going to be fine, right? And the next day, in like, you know, January 1st, 2000, there's no issues. Y2K was a hoax, okay? Nothing happened. But I'll tell you, that guy Prince, you know, we got a party like it's 1999. He was smart, man. He made that song. And, you know, we were partying like we were in 1999. Let's do it. All right, so git add dot, git commit -m, and we say added foliage assets, which is what we really did here. And git push. Hopefully it'll put everything up to, it'll use our large file support to push up a crazy amount of gigabytes. My guess is it's probably going to be like 13 gigabytes I'm going to push now, right? And that's just not me. It's probably you guys too. All right. So what I want to talk about when this is doing that is landscape materials. Yay, landscape materials. So we did this already. Yay, we did that part, right? And what I want to do is I want to add in a bunch of layers. I want to have dirt, and I want to have sand, and I want to have grass, and I want to have rock and snow, and all kinds of textures in here. And it's got to look good because a lot of times what we get from far away is we get a repeatable pattern that you can see that looks crapiola. It looks terrible. So we'll talk about how to conquer these things a bit and what to do. And that's why I'm going to tell you it's going to take time. And that's why the beautiful corner idea, this, you know, the vertical slice. Because there's no way, even in a week that you have left to get this project done, my friends, that you can do a landscape that's 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer with the detail that you're required to do, right? So keep it low, choose a patch someplace in your landscape that you're going to use, and that's what I want you to focus on, not the rest. Otherwise, it's going to be crazy. All right, so let's see where we are with that thing. Is it still going? Oh, yeah. 9.6 gigabytes and counting. There we go. So what I want to do is I want to talk about making two materials. I want to make one that's called m_landscape and mi_landscape. And we're going to use the material instance here inside of here. That's what we're going to do. Now, some things are captured in the PowerPoint and some things, unfortunately, are not. Okay, so we'll talk about what those are. And as we go, I'll show you some stuff that's in, that I've learned about materials since I've been doing them. All right, so let's do that. So back to this. I want to go into Unreal Engine, and we do have some folders here, a lot of folders that we've made in our project, and I want to do some reorganization. I have a materials folder that we used from last week. That's what we use here. And what I want to do here is I want to make a new new folder inside the materials folder called landscape. So a new folder called landscape. Here it is. And inside the landscape material folder, inside the materials folder, I want to make two new materials. One of them is going to be called m_landscape. And I'm also going to right click onto that and say create material instance. And I'm going to call this mi_landscape for the material instance material. There we go. There we go. Now, great thing is we have our landscape asset here inside of our level, and it does not have a material associated with it right now. Let's associate mi, the material instance, to this one, mi landscape here by just dragging it in. Okay, that's the first thing I want to do. So I'm doing this for a couple reasons. One, I want to be able to use my material instance instead of just my material because I want to make adjustments to the material. Okay, it's pretty shiny the way it is right now, but we're going to fix that. And let's double click on material m_landscape right now to bring up the main node. This is what the main node looks like. Okay? Recall, what are the 4 things we really care about for any material? If, for the most part, if we use a domain like this, a domain that is opaque, that has, it's a surface type material and is default lit. What are the 4 things we care about for this type of domain? Yes?
Base color, metallic, specular, and roughness.
Yes, those 4 at the bare minimum. Now, sometimes we ignore some of these or put direct values in here because it's just easier, and that's okay, all right? Here's something that we're getting right now. Notice that our roughness is 0.5 by default, right? And that means that we have some shininess to our level. So the first thing we can do is just take this roughness and make it 1 for now. Or let's make a constant. How do I make a constant quickly? What's the shortcut key? I hold the 1 key down, left click, it's not there. No, here. I hold the 1 key down here and press left click, and then it gives me my constant, okay? Let's immediately right click and make a convert to parameter option happen, right? And here we're going to just call this roughness for now, okay? And let's set a value of 1 to roughness. So it means it's very, very diffuse right now, okay? Also, on the left, we know that there is a material expression category and there's a group, and it's got none in there. We don't want that. We want to change this to properties for now. All right, so that we can, kind of hone in there. Then connect your roughness to this roughness input right here in the main node. And then apply and save. And if you go back to your level, you're going to see that it is matte. There's no shininess about it. All right, which is what we want to start with. We want to start with a matte surface, right, as opposed to something that is shiny. That's number 1. Next, did it push? Woohoo! Lucky, I guess. Next, the material. I want to add in some basic constants. I'm going to move this substrate. Let's actually kill the substrate. I don't care about that right now. So if we just remove it, we can always get it back. Remember, we just go to Window, and if we want to get substrate, we just go click on substrate and get it back. But we don't care about that right now, so we're leaving it alone. I want the maximum amount of space here possible. Next, I want 1 constant color. Let's just try colors from now to practice. 1 constant color for each type of material. And here are the materials I want. I want dirt, grass, sand, rock, and snow. Those are the ones I want. Okay? So let's do that. So how do I get a 3-dimensional material? So a constant 3. What's the shortcut for that? 3 left click. 3 left click. Here it is. So I've given you some numbers. All right? So if you want to do what I'm doing, I've given you these numbers. Hex sRGB. What I mean by that for dirt, right? If I copy this, and if I go back to here, and if I go here, there's an sRGB option right here inside of the material right here. If I copy this in, it will align the material with the color that I want. And this is just hex colors that I'm using. If I press OK, you're going to see it's the exact color that I talked about, as opposed to you trying to guess what I want. I'm just going to close this for now. So that's this one. So let's rename this immediately. Let's right click, and we know this is a color, right? So we're just going to call this the dirt tint. So we're going to go to convert to parameter. We'll call this dirt tint. Okay, you can actually, don't even need the underscore, just tint like this. There we go. And let's put this right under a group called tint. Just tint. So that way we know, we can look in the tint group and see all the tints that we have, right? I want to do this for more of them. So what I'm going to do is to make it quick, is I'm going to Control-C, Control-V a bunch of times, because that's just faster. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to change the color, and I'm going to rename these things. So if I want to rename, I can always convert to a constant, this part, back to a constant, all these ones, because I want to convert them back to parameters. Oops. Let's undo that. So I can convert them back to constants. Take a look. So if I convert them back to constants, I have a constant material, right? Because I need to rename them. I can't, if I rename one and convert them to another property, this will change too. So I'm converting them back, and now that I have that, I'm going to go to the next one. So this is going to be grass, and go here, change the sRGB. Excellent. Right click, and then convert back to a parameter and call this grass tint. No underscore. I don't need an underscore. All right, and the next one would be this one, which is sand. So again, double click, go in here, change the sRGB to this, and right click and convert to parameter, and this will be sand tint. Make sure also when you're converting to parameter, before we forget, to also choose the group. We can choose the group now. Once the tint group has been created, just like we do with categories in blueprints, we can always convert those too. And here's the next one. So the next one is going to be rock. Okay, and we're just going to right click and convert to parameter. We'll call this rock tint. I'll be okay. And make sure that it is part of the tint group. And the last one is snow. So it's not quite white. It's a little bit off-white that I used. That's the color that I found for snow. It's quite white, but it's not completely white. There it is. And I'm going to right-click and go to convert to parameter. And we'll just call this snow tint. And we'll choose the tint group. And let's organize our new colors. So we have one here. Oops. Here. Here. And here. So these are the colors I want to use in my landscape. I want to use all these colors, right? And I could create different layers. That's the way of doing it. I could do that. But what I want to do instead is use a material, a landscape blend. So if I right click, let's do this, and I type in landscape, there is a landscape layer blend that I want to use. Let's try with that. Start with that. Landscape layer blend, please. What this does is it starts off with nothing, right? There's nothing in this landscape layer blend. You can see there's nothing on it, no inputs. On the left, though, you can add in as many array elements as you want. It has layers. Let's add in one layer at a time. So I'm going to click on this little plus button here. And on the left, we're going to expand this, and let's change the first one to dirt. Okay, don't just use dirt by itself. Don't make any other name there. It'll make it easier for you. And let's do the next one. So I'm going to add another one, and that one will be called grass. As we keep on adding layers, is what we want to do. All right, so this is grass. And as we add layers, notice on the right, you get more pins. Okay, so we keep on adding layers, you get more pins. So then this one will be sand. And let's add more. A rock. And we'll add another one, which is snow. And we've got all the layers. Okay? Now what we need to do is connect all these to those. So if it's dirt here, just connect them up to dirt. Grass to grass. Sand to sand. Rock to rock. And finally, snow to snow. And this is our blend layer. So let's apply these things, these changes we made. And what I want to do is I want to pull this one into the base color. So I'm just going to pull these down, this main node here. I'm going to kind of pull this across just to make it easy to find, and then pull this into the base color, please, like this. So what you should be left with is something that looks like this. Okay, are you with me? So the blend node, what it does is really interesting. Because we've attached our material instance to the landscape, now what we want is for the landscape itself to understand the layers we want to use. Instead of me manually writing layers, and you can do that if you want to with your landscape, but it's a waste of your time. You can do it like this. With one material, you have everything. All right. Now that we have this, let's check out what this will look like if I go back to landscape mode. So if I go back to landscape mode here, here's landscape, then I want to click on paint, this option here at the top, paint, instead of sculpt. And if I scroll down, there's none of the layers. They don't appear. Now, in videos, if you watch videos on YouTube or whatever, you'll see layers in here. Sometimes because they're using a previous version of Unreal Engine, 5.1, 5.2, it was different. Even 4.7 was different. They actually had the layers immediately on here sometimes. So depending on the version you use, now we don't get them automatically. You have to press this button. So there's a button right here, which is create layers from assigned materials. Click that button, right? And what you get is all the material layers in here. Now, we're not complete yet. Okay, notice that it says dirt, grass, and sand, and all this other stuff, but there is nothing. It says none in here. You need a asset for each of these layers. And the way to do that is this little plus button, create layer info. Now, depending on what you are doing, you may or may not need this. Depending on the version you're using, you may not need this. But for us, we need it. So let's click on this little button, this create layer info. And it tells you what kind of layer you want to create. So it says weight blended layer or non-weight blended layer. I want a weight blended layer, right? Which is normal. Click on that. And it tells you, it asks you where you want to put your materials. Now, it creates something called a layer level 3 shader assets folder inside of maps. That's what it's going to do. And it's going to automatically name this layer. Please accept everything as is. It's a fine name. It's okay. Press save. And let's do that for all of them. So as soon as it creates that layer, start doing it for the rest of them. All right, so start going to from one to the other, and just do them all. All right, because they need all of these for that to function properly. Need layers here to work. Okay. There we go. Now, so this is one thing. Now notice me, I didn't have, even though my layers look like this, you know, as an example, I also have that material instance. Let's go back to that material instance. You can see these are the layers that were created for me. In my landscape, I have this material instance node. Here it is. And you can see that I've got some properties over here, and roughness is turned on to 1. I can turn that on. I can change the roughness if I want. And I also would like to have all my tints in here and textures. But what happened? Where are my tints? Because they're not here. So what do I need to do? So under landscape, I need to click apply, and I need to save. Sometimes what happens is if you don't click apply and save, you'll see what I saw. Now under this, I have all these tints. If I click onto them, it'll enable me to change these if I want to later on. And that's why we want to make these parameters. Otherwise, it would be not working properly. Back to this now. You notice that immediately what I got is this. So sand is the default material. Here's something. If I wanted to make everything grass by default, here's a quick way to do that without you having to do anything. Are you ready? You can right click on the layer and you can say fill layer. And if you did that, then everything now is grass, right? Which is way, way faster than you painting grass everywhere. Guys, start with something. Whether it's sand or grass or something, start with something and then paint on top of that. Okay, it just makes it a lot easier for you to do stuff. Are you with me? Yeah. So what we're talking about is I'm just trying to show you some shortcuts, some things to do so you understand how to make things easier for yourself, right? And this is a great test. So what we want to do here is just with colors alone, let's think about what we want to draw on some of these areas. So I want to maybe have grass at the very base area, but when I kind of come to the cliff area, I want to start painting some other things. How do I paint this stuff? The painting part is actually quite interesting. You choose a layer you want to paint. Like let's say, for example, around the mountains, I want to paint some dirt, and then as I go up the mountain, I want to paint some stone, and then further up, I want to use snow. So kind of a blended layer like that. Let's go to this little mount here, whatever it is. And let's start thinking about this. If I just do this, it's pretty big. You'll see that I have to click on a layer like dirt first. And then if I click this, for a moment, I get this and I get this blend. Right now it's too much. I can undo Control Z to get that back. Right? And I want to reduce my brush. So my brush size right now is 2048. It's pretty large. You can see what this looks like. You want to make it somewhat controllable. Okay, so somewhat small. And you must be careful about the tool strength. The tool strength gives you how much of your tint that you're going to put in that area. So let's even reduce this tool strength even further down to something like 0.1 or 0.2, okay? Now, if I zoom in, I want to go into the base area of this rock and start thinking about painting this area with just, you know, this kind of stuff. So we're going to transition between, you know, some grass, as an example here, just painting it really quickly, around, but the base of the mountain is not going to be grass. That makes no sense, right? We want to paint it so that it is some dirt, let's say around here. See the fall off? It's pretty good. I can make my brush smaller too if I think it's too big, right? And you can see here, I'm just going to go slowly around. It doesn't take long. But imagine if you're doing the entire landscape like this, man, this takes a long time, right? Which is what I'm trying to tell you. This takes, for you to do this right, it takes a long time to do. And I'm doing this first just like a painter would. If you paint a room, I'm kind of painting an area that is going to be my transition point, right? This is kind of what I want. Now, some places, like this area here, if you want to smooth the transition out between these two areas, we'll do that later. But for now, let's choose another color, another tint, and let's print rock kind of in here on the rocks. But I want to make my brush even smaller because I have a smaller area to design. So make the brush smaller. Again, you can use even smaller, maybe something like 150, right? So I can control my brush. That's important. Okay, so again, what I want to do is slowly, I want to paint rock on these areas. And if it's a little bit of overlap, it's okay, because I know that, you know, I'm going to slowly have these areas here that are pretty good. So I'm doing the transition area first, and then I can use a bigger brush as I continue to do this stuff everywhere else. Okay, so just slowly, take your time. As a programmer, I have to be honest, I really find this stuff like therapy. It's really weird, but I really do. I find it's like a different, use a different part of your brain than, you know, programming itself. So if you're an artist, you know this. You get into the zone with this kind of stuff. If you've ever done like things with Minecraft, like building Minecraft levels and stuff like that, you know what it's like. You can get into this like thing where you go crazy with Minecraft, spend an afternoon and you build whatever. This is kind of what this does. It kind of sucks in some of your time to do this area, right? So again, you can take your time. I'm just going slowly around this area. I'll show you why. I'm doing this with a small brush in a second. Because remember, this is all going to turn into a texture later on. We're going to change this into a texture, right? So, all right. So we're going to go here and here we go. Almost done. The first round. And again, I can move faster than this or whatever. If you have a different method, that's fine too. But make sure you cover all the areas. Like this clearly is a problem. And some of these rocks, the way they've been modeled, I may also want to modify the map. I mean, that I've been given. I've been given this, height map. And if I don't like it, I can always change it. Now let's move to a bigger brush size. So now I did the transition area, and now I'm confident I can use a bigger brush to do the other parts, like up here. I can also change the tool strength now way up to 3 again. So I wanted to make it faster because I know I want less of a transition and more of a, kind of a solid color here for some of this area. But you see my transition area that I've created, what it's done for me is made a nice transition, between the two. So I'm not going to affect those other areas as much. There we go. All right, now let's add the snow. So I want to add the snow on the top of the rocks. Maybe a certain area, there's going to be a little bit of snow. So I want to go back to the snow and then change the size of my brush again, as well as the opacity way down, which is what the tool strength is. So tool strength, I'm going to go right down to like 1.8 or 1.5. Drop this down to about 150 again, maybe even a lower, 100, because at the top of this thing, there's only a few areas I want to put some snow. And again, I want to just put it up here. There we go. Some areas on top of this hill. That I'm going to put some snow here. we go. Not a lot. Okay, I don't have to do much more than this. Again, you want a subtle effect. You don't want to make it so that it is like really a drastic change from one area to the other. It looks really unnatural for that to happen. And you can certainly do this and take your time. But I want to be able to smooth this. So one way to do the smoothing is if I want to smooth between one layer and another, I can kind of look here. You can see that it's kind of rough in some places. Like you can see these like weird effects, especially here. Look what happens if I go really close. What happens? Like you do this. Look, you get these little chunks, right? Well, if you go to smooth, then what you can do is you can smooth those layers off. So there's a transition from one layer to the other, and it'll take away some of those lines. If you smooth, you can increase the tool strength here for this one. Remember that smooth is a destructive operation most of the time. So when you're smoothing, what you're doing is you're reducing, or you're increasing the transition between one and the other. Let's even make it actually smaller. More, even stronger than that. Right, so I want to see that less effect. Okay? So you can see I'm just smoothing the transition between the rocks and the snow, slowly, slowly, until we get the desired effect. And by the way, you can also use rock in there as well. Like if I want to change from this to rock, because I feel like that is better, then I can still certainly try and smooth that from one to the other. All right, so now that I've got this and I'm pretty happy with it, I've made kind of like this effect where there's a bit of a blending between the two. I can also smooth the bottom, so I can smooth this part. And maybe I want to just add in. And again, it's pretty subtle, but you can see that I'm taking away some of the green from the grass as I add in more of the stone. And I can also move to the dirt as I smooth here as well. Flatten also does the same thing. So if you ever try flattening, that also does a flat color. It's actually really good for a transition. What it does is it kind of flattens it down to the previous color. So if you want more of some green in there, you can see what it does. It flattens the layer down to the previous layer. Again, I don't like that, so I can undo those changes. But if you wanted to, that's what flatten does. Noise, if you click noise, it actually adds randomness to your brush as you smooth, and what that does is it kind of creates these areas here. If you want to be a little rougher, you can do that. I personally don't think it's a good, so I like to smooth things. And if you see what the effect of smooth is, it actually takes away some of that noise and makes it a little bit smoother. Okay? Again, you can spend all day doing this stuff. It's crazy, right? So let's not do that for everything. And this is the first step. Let's play our character and see what they feel like when they're on the world. You can see that we're way over here. And way over here, you can see I'm going to run over there. And I painted the other place here, but you can see that there is the mountain. And even with these colors, if you wanted to try and do a stylized world, this is the way you would do it. You wouldn't add any kind of textures. You would just make this like this, and it'd be stylized kind of world that you're making. Okay? Now, what about textures? I want to change to textures. And this is where we get a little hairy in terms of how we do this, right? Remember what we have with textures. We have the regular texture itself, plus normal maps, plus roughness maps, plus a bunch of other stuff. So this is where it's going to get a little bit more challenging. So leave this, we'll save all, file save all, right? And we have this already. And what I want to do, just using this as an example, is I want to change our material again. Go back to our material and let's put this up on GitHub, because I'm always I always want to revert if worst case scenario. You know what I'm saying? I'm a nervous guy this way. I always think like somehow I'm going to mess up, right? And if I mess up, I want to go back. So this is how I can do that. So make sure before you do GitHub, you save all. So file, save all. Make sure you do that, especially in your level. You also may want to try and build, like do a build all levels, which builds the texture streaming. It also builds things like, I can't do this. Swarm agent won't work, cancel. It'll also build things like, other things in your level. And why this is really good is because you want to make sure, what did it do? Try to add another layer. You want to make sure that, come on, there we go, that you've built everything, because it also builds the lighting for your level as well. Okay. All right. By the way, the directional light, if I click on the directional light for this level 1 second, it's still building lighting. This is before I put it on up on DevOps. I ignore that for now. So if I build the lighting, if I go to the directional light here, and again it's Control L, and you can change the lighting. So Control L will allow you to change the lighting direction, so you can see where the lighting comes from. So you can change where the light is hitting the mountain or whatever. And this might be a good chance to, again, I'm holding Control L while I'm moving this around, my friends. Okay, that's what I'm doing. So if I want to see a place that's fully lit like this, then I want to change my lighting so it comes from a certain direction. And that's what I want. That's what I've done here. Okay. So there we go. Fully lit area I can see, and then you can see other places are less lit because I've moved the lighting around. All right. Now this is a great place to file, save all. And then when I've saved all, I want to go back to here and git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll say added simple tint for landscape texture, landscape material. There we go. All right, wonderful. We got our first thing. I want to modify my material now. So let's do this. Let's disconnect all these tints for now. So disconnect them. And I want to replace them with a texture, with textures in general. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to move this aside. Now, I'm not going to delete them, because I may need to use them. And on the left, let's look at some textures that I provided for you. So if I go to Fab, and if I go to Megascans, and I go to Surfaces, you can see that there are quite a few textures. I can, if you look here on the left, I can just look for textures. So click on texture here, and it'll give you all the textures. It'll kind of create a little bit of a filter, so we don't have to go through each folder in one blow. Okay. Now some of this is hard to see, but I've named them all properly. So again, T grass D. That's a pretty good grass to use. You can, if you want to use a mossy forest floor, that's not bad. It gives you a little bit more detail. So I think I'm going to start with a mossy forest floor for my grass. So I'm going to just pull that in. All right, and that gives me my sample, texture sample. So if I scroll in, look at that. It says texture sample. And what I want to do with this texture sample is immediately convert this to a parameter. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to go to convert to parameter. I'm going to call this grass, and I'm going to put in D for diffuse. Okay. On the left, I want to change the group. Instead of none, I want to change it to textures. There we go. So this grass is going to be part of the texture. I want to move this from here right into the grass layer. I did that first for some reason. And let's do the next one. Let's do dirt next. So again, you can also filter here. If I type in dirt, then I have provided a dirt ground texture that I'm going to use. So I'm going to drag that in. And I'm going to do the same process. So I'm not going to talk it through. I'm just going to do it now, and I want you guys to do similar things. But this will be dirt D, so I know it's the diffuse version. And let's go do sand. I've got sand, and I've kind of created a sand rippled sand. That's what that I've chosen. Now again, if you don't like these, you can certainly use other things, and you can always tint these later on. We'll talk about how to do that here. All right, so let's right click and convert to parameter. We'll call this sand D. Make sure it's in the right textures group. I didn't do that for this one, did I? I did. Oh, about this one. I didn't. There we go. Two more. Rock. So there's a bunch of stuff for rock. I've always been struggling with the rock one. I got rock cliff, but I tried it in my test, and I thought that rock cliff was a little bit too textury. There's also rock rough. I think maybe that's a little bit easier and not as crazy as rock cliff. let's try rock rough for now. So here's rock rough, right? I'm going to put that in there. And right click and convert to parameter and call this rock. And make sure it's in the right group. And last but not least, snow. So again, there's a couple of snow. I've tried a bunch of different ones. There's snow gravel, which is what I use. There's also snow covered. Snow covered, I find that it is a little bit too busy, right? And it becomes, you know, a little bit more too much. I'm going to grab snow gravel instead and grab this in. So it's not complete like, you know, there we go. And let's rename this to convert to parameter and convert this to snow D and make sure it's in the right group. There we go. And apply and save. Now, what it does in the material instance is it creates these textures. Now, the great thing about this is if you want to replace these textures because you're not happy with them, just replace the ones in the material instance. Leave the ones, the basic ones in the material, and it'll make it way easier for you to replace these if you're not happy with them, right? As opposed to changing the material itself. Don't do that. It's too much of a waste of time. Back to this, right? Immediately we see the effect. These are now textures as opposed to just tints. So this is a great way to, this is a great workflow. Think about it, right? You can start with basic tints, work away around the entire landscape. It's easy. You don't have to worry about how the texture looks and all that stuff. And start thinking about how you want to tint your landscape first. Use basic colors. And then the next step is changing to textures. And this becomes a little bit nicer. Okay? Now, there's a problem. You can clearly see that we have a repeatable instance issue here. Like from my picture. Take a look. Tons of repeating areas. And even if I brought in the character here, you know, you can see here it looks pretty good, right? But if I look far here like this, it looks just too easy that it's repeating everywhere, like repeating hills, right? I don't like it. So here's a way to fix it. I'm going to go back to my landscape material, right? And I'm going to leave these for now. I'm going to come back to them. But we have a UV input. And I talked about UVs last week really briefly. But what we can do is if I right-click and I type in coords, there is a landscape layer coords node we can use, right? Landscape layer coords can plug into each of the UVs here inside of each of these things, okay? Now, what this will allow us to do is it'll change the resolution, not the tiling, just the resolution of the textures that we're getting. And we want to try and make it match to some degree with the resolution we get for the landscape. So apply and save, please. If I go back, there's no difference at this point, okay? But let's take a look at the landscape. If you click a look at the landscape itself, click on landscape, please. And if you scroll up, and if I type in information, okay, you can see that information about a landscape is like as follows. The resolution is 128 by 128, which means if I want to, I could go as high as 128 for the landscape coordinate resolution. Let me show you this. So if I go back to this landscape, on the left, when I click on the landscape coordinates, there is an area that says mapping scale. We can change this to crazy. It would be crazy to do this, but 128. We could do as high as that. If I did, now you're going to see it's way, way too close, right? It actually looks like it's been zoomed right in, right? Like super high resolution. This is not realistic, again, because we're going to see is a lot of like smoothing with the texture, and we lose too much. It's almost too big, I would say now, right? It's worse, right? But we can adjust this number because if I go back to my landscape and stuff, instead of 128, let's just try something like 4, like a really low number. As long as the power of 2, you're good, right? And if I click apply and save, and if I go back to my texture now that's a little better. Take a look. It's harder to see from the character. All I care about is what the character sees. So now if I look over, I can't tell as much until I look over here that it's layered. Take a look at that pattern. There's more pattern that I can see here, but close up, unless I'm standing on a hill, I won't be able to see it as much. We can change that even more. So let's do that more. Since maybe 4 is not the number, maybe I want to use 8. Let's try that. So apply and save. And if I go back now, again, if I press play, then here immediately it's not easy for him to see. Here it's easy, but it's way far away, to see these things. And again, hopefully there's going to be trees and things that are going to occlude his things, because close up it looks pretty good, right? It doesn't look as bad, as much repeating, and it's a good place to start if I want to put other things. Now, one thing that's missing here is there's no material, normal at all. So one thing we need to do is, if we want the normals, I'm going to go closer to this mountain to see it, right? So here it looks pretty good, a bit of a transition, right? You can see that this is okay. The mountain, I don't know if I like how big it made it, like the rock. Again, I struggle with rock textures, especially when it could become skewed like this. Kind of weird, right? And this is where I use my blocking, and I replace my rock textures with rock stuff that I'm going to give you right now, which is the next thing we're going to do after the break, right? But again, this is kind of a part of blocking out the scene. All right, so now that we have this, we have our texture. Maybe I'm satisfied with that, maybe I'm not. You can adjust it to some other power of 2. You have to play around with this value till you're happy with it, right? So you don't see as much repeating textures, at least not close up, okay? Which is what you don't want. Doesn't take away the tiling issue, but it makes it a little better. All right, so back to this, right? I want to add in my normals, right? So again, what I'd like you to do is this. Let's do this. Let's highlight these nodes here, right? And press C, and we'll call these, base color. Again, you can use certain colors for this. So if you want to go to here, just like we've done in the past, and if I want to choose base color, again, you can choose the color you like green or some other color. Or if you want to make it black, you can do that too, right? But something to basically comment what this thing is, base color, okay? And I'm just going to save that color because I'm going to use it over and over again. There we go. So what I want to do now is let's make this a little tighter. And again, you can use reroute nodes like before. Like all these things are the same as you would making normal blueprints here. But what I want to do is I want to make a bunch more textures in here for all the normals, right? I have to duplicate this node, which is the landscape layer blend mode. I want to duplicate that, cut and paste, please. Here it is, cut and paste. And now I want to pull in all those textures again, but the normal maps for all those textures. So if you don't remember what they are, you can always look here, right? We know that dirt ground is the first one that we're going to use. So that's the one I'm going to pull in. So dirt ground. So if I go dirt, there we go, dirt ground. Here's the normal map. It doesn't matter where you pull it in because you're going to pull it in down over here, close to this. And what you want to do is connect the normal here, all right? And then I want to do the same thing for the other ones. So I'm just going to quickly do that by just filtering and going grass. I know I use mossy grass, so I'm going to put that in there. And again, if you don't like the mossy grass or whatever, you can use your own. Something else. I'm going to change these in a second. I'm just going to pull them in first just to make it so it's like a process. And this is sand. We only have one, which is ripple. Here's that one. And you know what I'm doing. Here's my snow. All right, so things I need to do still. I need to change these two parameters. I got to convert them to parameters. I want to do that too because I want each of these things to be something I can swap out with the texture if I need to. So just like before, naming convention wise, this one is going to be convert to parameter, and it's going to be dirt, and in brackets n for normal. So I know that that's what it is. And it's going to be right next to the dirt diffuse. So I know what that is going to be as well. Convert to parameter, and this will be grass n. And this will be sand. And do all those. And I'll have to put them in the same group in a second. I'm going to do them one thing at a time. Okay, I got them all done. Now I'm just going to change groups. Let's see if I can click onto them all, like so, and then change the group for all of them to textures. There we go. And the last thing I need to do, well, two more things. I want to connect this, which is my layer coordinates, and I need to do the same one. I want to connect this node all the way here. Guys, what a waste of time if I was going to make all these connections. There is a great way, right, not to do this and keep the same layer coordinate node so that I don't have to make all these wires all over the place, okay? And one way to do that is create a reroute node, okay? But it's a special one. So let me go in here and I'll show you how to do this. So not in the PowerPoint. Ready? Here we go. So I'm going to right-click on this, right? And what I want to do here when I right-click is I want to add, pull off, and then I want to add named reroute declaration node. Add named reroute declaration node. And if I click onto that, add named reroute declaration node, I get a funky name for this thing. And I can call this landscape coords, right? And when I do that, now, instead of making all these connections, I can just copy this, not copy this, but I can disconnect all these. And I'll show you why, because now we don't need to make all these connections. Instead, I can right-click. Notice now at the top when I right-click, I have this named reroutes. Take a look at this. I have a named reroute. I can just use landscape coords here and then just pull it in. And I can do that and copy-paste all those all the time. Now you might think, wait, I'm adding new nodes. But actually what I'm doing is, just like we would do when we're making a function, right? I'm just making a named node that I can use over and over again. And this is going to be very handy later on in this course, where we use this stuff to make visual effects and other things. We need to know how to do this as opposed to dragging cables all around, or wires, which I don't like. I'm an anti-wire protester, okay? I don't like it. I want to make my stuff look nicer, so I want to start doing this. And that's how I see it. I mean, you might like the wires. I don't, right? But you could simply do something that looks like this, okay? So, and then notice this can sit in the background here, and as long as it sits there, I can reuse them anywhere I want. So that's named reroute nodes. All right, so now that we have the named reroute nodes, and it's all the same, because we're using the same UVs, that's what they are, then what I can do is I can simply just comment this. So a comment, and this will be normal map. That's what this is. And I can change the color of this as well by going this and choosing the color that I want. I'm going to choose black because that's the kind of guy that I am. I like that black stuff, black colors. And you know what? I'm going to extend this one so it looks the same as that one. So I can move those around now. And then what I want is going to take this node here and, oh man, I got to do all this over here like this. Oh, what a pain in the ass. What am I going to do? Named reroute nodes, my friend. Add named reroute declaration node. This one's going to be called normals, right? And what I can do in this case is we can actually even separate it so it's inside here and no more wires. I don't want this wire here for base color either, right? So this is kind of cool. I can just get rid of it and then just do the same thing. I can add named reroute declaration nodes and I can call this base color. So then all I need to do here is go here right next to this main node, which is pretty cool, right? Pull this over and then I can just go named reroutes and I can type base color. Or if I just type base color, it comes up, which is really cool too. There's base color, right? And it looks way neater than what we had before. And if I go normals, if I do that, if I go normals, right? Now, if I called it that, what did I call it? Normals, yeah. So I can right click and go normals. There it is. And that'll be just referring to the normal input from there. Way better than try and drag stuff around. It's just a way uglier thing to do. So now the great thing about this is I can squirrel these away anywhere on this thing I like, and it becomes more of a map than all these wires going all over the place, which is terrible. I hate them. I don't know about you guys. Griffin, you look so good. What'd you do, Shane? You look amazing. All right. So now that I have this, I have my normals and everything else. Now it's the place to apply and save, right? And when we apply and save our changes, notice our MI landscape also changes, and we have these pairs, dirt D, dirt N, grass D, grass N. All of these things here can be replaced by different textures if you don't like them, all right? And if I go back to my level, it looks a little bit nicer, because look, now we've got a bit of a normal map. But what if you don't like this normal map, right? Because we want to change these normal maps up. We want to do that. Well, here's what we can do, right? First of all, let's play and see what it looks like. Much nicer, right? In terms of once we have the normal map in there and roughness. We could also add the roughness if you want some areas of your textures to have some roughness. Like for example, if you want your mountain, your stone to be a little bit shinier than the rest of your stuff, you could do the exact same process with your roughness. So you could have different roughness for different one of those different layers. You can have different roughness values. So that way you don't have to make it so homogeneous like I've done here. Like everything is the same. It's all one, right? Well, that's okay for me right now, but I think as I go, I'd like my rocks to be shinier. I like my areas to be more realistic, right? So it's not bad to start with, okay? And so techniques that I'm showing you here like this is the right way to go. Base color. Okay, here's challenge. I'm going to take a short break. Here's what I want you to do to change stuff up. Oh man, I hate those cables. I hate them, right? I want you to replace each of these cables with your own reroute node, all right? So here's what I want you to do, right? And here's why I want to do this. What if I want to multiply these values by other values in the future? Do I want to pull cables to do that? It's an ugly thing to do, buddy. I'm not a cable puller, right? Or a wire puller, if you like, right? I like to be able to use these little things, make small nodes, and then from there I can have my calculations. I can comment them. It can be nice and neat looking, and then I can, when someone looks at my stuff, they're like, okay, I see what's happening here, right? As opposed to like a wild array of spaghetti like wires everywhere. It drives me crazy. I'm not sure about you, but for me, I like to keep organized. So you can change these all, and the way I would do them is m_dirt, right? Where m is the material for dirt, and if you really want to put d at the other end, you could, and that would be the reroute node. Then you connect it here to the layer blend, right? If you want to. There's some other areas you can do that too. All right, what about if I want power values for each of these things? Should I put the power value here, or do you think I should put the power values here? What are your thoughts? So power values mean I want to increase or decrease. I want to have control. I want to have a slider so I can control the tint, as an example. We have all those tints. I want to use them, and I want to multiply those tints by my landscape so I can have ultimate control over how my landscape might look. Maybe I want to make it a little greener or a little browner, or I want to change a couple things. I don't want to do that here in my landscape material. I want to do that in my material instance, right? So again, what you can do is over here where I have all these tints, right? As I come out here, I could make my own named reroute, right, node for each of these things. Then I don't have to move them here. I can just do the multiplication here. Or I don't even have to do the multiplication here. I can pull all these away somewhere else, as an example, and then do the multiplication right here. And all you would see is just the multiplication happening, as opposed to, you know, wires, which I don't like. So let's take a short break, and when we come back, I want you, and during the break if you can, to think about doing this kind of stuff. I want tinting. I want every texture. I want to be able to tint those textures. And I want to be able to flatten each of the normals, right? So that means I can increase or decrease the amount of bump that I get from the normals, as opposed to me having to accept the normals for what they are. I don't want to do that, okay? Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll do all that.